Arvind Malhotra and Kavya Thakur were worlds apart, one a powerful millionaire with a polished public image, the other a young single mother struggling to make ends meet. But their secret affair would spiral into a deadly nightmare that no one saw coming. Arvind Malhotra lived a life that looked perfect from the outside, the kind that appeared in business magazines and high society pages. Born into a wealthy family, he grew his father's hotel business into a nationwide chain. Everywhere he went, people respected him, admired him, even envied him. He was seen as a disciplined man with a stable marriage and a clean reputation. His wife, Ree, often accompanied him to charity events, award ceremonies, and public functions, smiling at cameras and representing the family name with elegance. Their life appeared smooth, balanced, and controlled. But the truth behind Arvind's carefully built image was far more complicated. The first crack in his perfect world appeared during a charity fundraiser in Pune. He attended the event expecting a typical evening of speeches, handshakes, and photos. Instead, he noticed a young woman working at the registration desk, moving quickly between guests with quiet focus. Her name was Kavya Thakur. She was a single mother who had taken the job temporarily to support her little boy. She didn't seem impressed by the wealthy people around her, and she didn't attempt to gain anyone's attention. Her simplicity stood out in a room full of expensive clothes and polished smiles. Throughout the evening, Arvind found himself observing her. She had a calmness that he hadn't felt in his own life for years. When the event ended, he learned she worked a second job at a cafe nearby. Out of curiosity, or perhaps loneliness, he visited the cafe the next week. Their first interaction was brief, but something about it made him return again and again. Soon, their meetings became regular. Arvind found himself drawn to the quiet space Kavya created around her, a space far away from business calls, board meetings, reporters, and expectations. Kavya, on the other hand, saw him as a kind, generous man who cared about her struggles. She had no interest in his wealth, and unlike others in his life, she didn't treat him like a celebrity. Over months, their bond deepened. What began as casual meetings slowly shifted into a relationship neither had planned. Arvind felt alive around her in a way he had not felt in years. The secrecy added to the excitement, and the risk made it even more tempting. He told himself he could keep this hidden forever, that no one would find out, and that no one would get hurt. But secrets never stay quiet forever. As their relationship continued, Kavya naturally expected more clarity, more commitment, more honesty. She wanted to understand what role she truly had in his life. She was raising a child alone, and she needed stability, not uncertainty. Arvind avoided the topic each time, giving vague promises and delaying serious conversations. He was trapped between two worlds, one built on reputation and the other built on desire, and he didn't want to let go of either. Meanwhile, his wife Ree sensed subtle changes in him. He came home late, avoided family gatherings, and stayed distracted even on days meant for relaxation. She didn't know the truth yet, but she could feel the shift. The longer Arvind tried to balance both sides of his life, the more unstable everything became. Each day added pressure, and every lie created a new crack in the perfect story he had created for the world. What Arvind didn't realize was that this hidden relationship, built in silence and secrecy, would soon lead him down a path that would destroy everything he had spent years protecting. A month before the grand 10th wedding anniversary, a shift began in the silent spaces between Arvind and Kavya. She had grown tired of uncertainty, tired of living in the shadows of his double life. The uneasiness she felt turned into suspicion, and one evening, while helping him carry his coat during a visit, a small folded receipt slipped out of the pocket. The shiny gold logo of an elite jewelry store caught her attention. The date printed on it was only a week old. The item purchased was an expensive diamond necklace. She knew instantly it wasn't for her. The discovery struck her harder than she expected. For years, Arvind had promised a future filled with possibilities, stability, and honesty. She had believed him, trusted him, and even built dreams around his words. But the evidence in her hand pointed to a different reality. He had no intention of leaving his wife or acknowledging her place in his life. The illusion she held onto broke in that single moment. Her heartbreak soon turned into determination. Instead of confronting him immediately, she began collecting everything that proved their relationship existed. Old text messages, recorded transfers he had made to support her son, photos from hidden meetings, and even notes he had left behind at times. She saved them all, knowing that one day she might need them. She didn't wish to destroy his world. She simply wanted answers, honesty, and closure. But she also understood that powerful men like Arvind rarely faced consequences without proof. Meanwhile, Arvind grew increasingly anxious. Kavya's silence after discovering the receipt was unmistakable. She stopped answering his calls, ignored his messages, and avoided meeting him. Every passing day amplified his fear. He knew Kavya was emotional, but he underestimated how deeply he had hurt her. The guilt began affecting his behavior at home too. He was distracted during conversations, irritable with small inconveniences, and restless even during peaceful moments. Ree noticed these changes instantly. She had always been observant, and small shifts in his routine rarely escaped her eyes. Although she had no confirmation of an affair, her instincts told her something was deeply wrong. At the same time, Arvind's assistant, Jai Damon, watched these developments closely. Jai had worked with him for years and knew his schedules better than anyone. He noticed unexplained trips to Pune, appointments that didn't match official plans, and odd instructions to keep certain meetings off the record. Jai wasn't nosy by nature, but the inconsistencies were too unusual to ignore. Though he kept his suspicions to himself, he quietly memorized details and timelines. He wasn't sure what Arvind was hiding, but he sensed it was something dangerous. As the days passed, Kavya's growing collection of evidence became her shield. Arvind's fear of exposure became his weakness, and Ree's intuition became the silent force watching the unraveling of her marriage. None of them knew it yet, but the atmosphere around Arvind had transformed into a fragile glass dome, ready to shatter with the slightest pressure. His carefully managed life, built on secrecy and control, was now slipping away piece by piece, and each person around him was unknowingly contributing to the storm forming on the horizon. The evening of the 10th anniversary celebration unfolded with elegance and extravagance, exactly as the Malhotra family intended. Their beachside bungalow was decorated with warm lights that reflected softly on the water. Guests from the business world, film industry, and political circles arrived in luxurious cars, each greeted with traditional music and perfectly curated hospitality. Ree moved gracefully through the crowd, welcoming everyone with calm confidence, maintaining the image of a strong and united marriage. No one suspected that beneath all the glitter, something dark was already taking shape. Arvind tried to play his role as the charming host, but his mind was consumed by fear and uncertainty. Kavya's sudden silence over the last few days had unsettled him more than he admitted. As guests congratulated him and exchanged cheerful wishes, his eyes constantly drifted toward his phone in his pocket. He felt a strange pressure building inside him, a sense that something irreversible was about to happen. His smile was forced, his responses hesitant, and his attention scattered. Those close to him noticed how restless he appeared, but assumed it was just stress from organizing such a grand event. Fireworks lit up the sky as the night grew deeper. Ree stood beside him for photographs, unaware that he wasn't mentally present. When the dessert was served, Arvind finally stepped aside to check his phone. A new message appeared from an unknown number. His heart pounded as he opened it. The message was simple yet threatening, a final warning from Kavya. She demanded that he meet her immediately at a construction site near the city outskirts. If he didn't come, she would release the evidence she had been collecting. The fear of losing everything, his marriage, reputation, and empire, tightened around his chest. He looked around to see if anyone noticed him trembling. No one did. Without informing Ree or any staff member, he slipped away from the celebration, moving quickly to the parking area and driving off in one of his cars. Every passing streetlight added to the weight of panic pressing against his ribs. He rehearsed explanations in his mind, excuses he could use and lies that might protect him. Nothing felt convincing. When he arrived at the unfinished construction site, the silence was heavy. Concrete pillars, broken tiles, and shadows created an eerie atmosphere. Kavya waited near a half-built wall, holding a thick folder of evidence. Her expression was cold, distant, and exhausted. For her, this moment was about clarity and justice. For him, it was survival. Arvind walked toward her with shaky steps, trying to reason with her, trying to beg her to reconsider. But she was firm, prepared, and unwilling to be deceived again. She held out the folder, revealing glimpses of photographs and documents. The reality of what she possessed hit him harder than he expected. In that second, panic overpowered logic. Fear consumed every part of him. He felt his life slipping away, future collapsing, everything he had built turning to dust. When Kavya stepped closer, anger and frustration visible in her movements, Arvind reacted without thinking. In a moment driven by blind fear and emotional chaos, he shoved her away. The push was stronger than he intended. She stumbled backward, her foot catching on a broken piece of concrete. The fall was sudden. Her head struck sharply against a jagged tile. The sound echoed through the empty structure. Silence followed. Arvind stared in horror as the stillness of her body sank in. There was no movement, no breath, no sound. In one terrible moment, the secret affair had transformed into something far darker. His hands shook uncontrollably as he knelt beside her, but reality refused to change. She was gone. Panic turned into desperation. His mind raced through consequences, scandals, police investigations, media headlines, and ruined legacies. There was no turning back. Acting in pure terror, he dragged her lifeless body toward a ditch filled with debris and covered it with whatever broken materials he could find. Sweat drenched his face despite the cool night air. Each second felt like a countdown to complete destruction. But what Arvind didn't realize was that he wasn't alone. Someone had followed him, someone who saw everything from the shadows, and someone whose truth would soon unravel his entire life. Jai Damon had not planned to witness anything that night. He had followed Arvind out of the party only because of instinct, a quiet suspicion that had been growing for months. When he saw his boss slip away from the celebration without informing anyone, something inside him urged him to see where he was going. He kept a safe distance, driving with his headlights low, careful not to be noticed. He didn't expect anything more than a secret meeting, or perhaps a business discussion Arvind wanted to keep private. But as he parked near the empty construction site and saw Arvind's car already there, uneasiness turned into silent dread. From the darkness between unfinished pillars, Jai watched the entire scene unfold. He saw Kavya standing with a folder, her posture tense and resolute. He saw Arvind approach her with visible desperation, and then he saw the sudden push, the fall, and the horrifying stillness that followed. The sound of her head hitting concrete echoed faintly across the site, but it struck Jai like thunder. His breath caught in his throat. Shock anchored him to the ground, and for a moment he felt unable to move. The man he respected, admired, and trusted with his career had just crossed a line no one could return from. Jai watched Arvind's frantic behavior. The trembling hands, the panicked attempts to check for signs of life, the rapid breaths that sounded like someone drowning. He saw him drag Kavya's body toward the ditch and cover it hastily with broken debris. Even from a distance, Jai could sense Arvind's terror, the overwhelming fear that had turned him into someone unrecognizable. When his boss finally rushed back to the car and sped away, Jai remained frozen in place, overwhelmed by the weight of what he had witnessed. For hours that night, sleep refused to come. Jai paced around his small apartment, replaying the scene repeatedly. Silence pressed heavily against him, and every thought spiraled toward the same conclusion. He couldn't stay quiet, but the fear of confronting someone as powerful as Arvind also haunted him. He knew that wealthy men with influence often escaped consequences. If Arvind learned that he had witnessed the crime, he might try to silence him as well. The danger felt dangerously close. By dawn, the fear pushed Jai into action. With trembling hands, he made an anonymous call to the local police station. He kept his voice low and disguised, revealing only the location of the body. He didn't give details about himself or the killer. He only wanted to make sure Kavya wasn't left forgotten in a pile of rubble. After disconnecting the call, he sat on the edge of his bed, heart pounding, waiting to hear news of what would come next. Later that morning, police arrived at the construction site. They found the disturbed debris, uncovered the body, and immediately sealed off the area. The discovery triggered shockwaves within the force. A phone inside her handbag was still switched on, providing access to her entire digital trail. Investigators quickly traced her recent communication patterns, uncovering transfers, call logs, and stored messages linking her directly to Arvind Malhotra. While forensic experts examined the site, tire marks in the dirt became a crucial clue. The pattern matched one of the luxury cars registered under Arvind's name. As evidence began stacking up, officers grew suspicious about the timing of his disappearance from the party. When they reviewed nearby highway CCTV cameras, they found clear footage of his car rushing toward the direction of the construction site on the night of the murder. By midday, police requested Arvind to come for questioning. Though he tried to maintain his calm, the cracks in his facade appeared instantly. His statements were inconsistent, and his attempts to explain his sudden absence from the party didn't match what the evidence showed. Meanwhile, Jai's inner conflict intensified. Remaining silent now felt impossible. He realized that the truth needed to be fully exposed. The following day, he walked into the police station with a signed statement describing in detail what he had witnessed. It was the final piece investigators needed. With his testimony, everything aligned perfectly. The motive, the timeline, the evidence, and the eyewitness account. The truth that Arvind had buried under broken concrete now resurfaced with undeniable strength. His empire, once a symbol of success, began crumbling at the hands of the very people he believed would never betray him. Arvind Malhotra's arrest sent shockwaves across Mumbai and quickly made national headlines. The millionaire, who had built a reputation for discipline, integrity, and family values, was now the central figure in a murder case. Reporters crowded the streets outside the Malhotra bungalow, broadcasting live updates, while citizens expressed disbelief that someone so powerful could fall so far. Within hours, police had collected every shred of evidence connecting him to Kavya Thakur's death. Tire tracks, CCTV footage, phone records, and the damning testimony of Jai Damon left little room for doubt. Arvind was placed in a high-security detention facility, his face pale and strained as the reality of his situation sank in. For years he had controlled people, manipulated situations, and lived behind a carefully constructed facade. But nothing in his experience had prepared him for this. Each moment in the cell felt suffocating. He was haunted not only by the memory of Kavya's sudden death, but also by the knowledge that he had destroyed a life, betrayed trust, and put everything he loved in jeopardy. Ree Malhotra, his wife, remained calm in the public eye, but inside she was a whirlwind of emotions. She had long suspected infidelity, but had never imagined it would lead to murder. Months before, she had quietly hired a private investigator, sensing the cracks in Arvind's behavior and wanting to confirm her suspicions. The investigator's photographs and reports revealed the affair in chilling detail. Yet she didn't confront Arvind immediately, choosing to wait and watch, calculating how events would unfold. Her patience, though unacknowledged by the world, became a quiet form of justice. The trial began within weeks. The prosecution built a meticulous case, relying on forensic evidence, digital communications, tire marks, and Jai Damon's eyewitness testimony. Arvind's attempts to deflect blame or manipulate timelines were transparent against the overwhelming evidence. Each day in court revealed the calculated nature of his actions, the fear that drove him to panic, and the cold decisions he made in those final moments with Kavya. The courtroom became a stage for the unraveling of a man who once seemed untouchable. Perhaps the most shocking revelation came during the final hearings. Ree publicly disclosed her knowledge of the affair, explaining that she had planned to announce her divorce shortly after the anniversary celebration. Her revelation stunned everyone present. She had never intended for the confrontation to turn violent. She had believed Arvind would eventually make a choice. The irony that his own fears and deception led to the very disaster he tried to prevent was not lost on anyone in the courtroom. When the verdict was delivered, Arvind was sentenced to life imprisonment. His fortune remained, but his reputation, influence, and freedom were destroyed. Jai Damon quietly left Mumbai, adopting a new identity to escape the media frenzy. Kavya's young son was taken in by her sister, who vowed to provide him with the stability his mother could no longer ensure. In the months that followed, the Malhotra empire began to crumble. Business deals were renegotiated, partners withdrew, and the public image of the family shifted from admiration to scandal. The story of Arvind's double life, Kavya's tragic death, and the quiet vigilance of Ree became a cautionary tale repeated across social media, news broadcasts, and corporate circles. The tragedy left an enduring mark on all involved. Arvind remained imprisoned, haunted by the irreversible choices he had made. Ree moved forward cautiously, her strength shaped by betrayal and patience. Jai found safety, carrying the burden of what he had witnessed, while Kavya's son grew up surrounded by the love of his family, but with the shadow of tragedy lingering in his memory. What began as a secret affair had ended in devastation, proving that one hidden truth, one fearful decision, and one fateful night could destroy multiple lives forever.